Hi, my name is Francine and I have ovarian cancer. We don't know how long I have, so my job right now is to make every day count. Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing great. Today I wanted to talk about someone else's story, which I do a lot. This isn't a cancer story though, but it is about near-death experience. And when you have cancer and you're facing those things, even if even if there's a great chance that you're going to recover and move on, you don't stop thinking about those things. It's always somewhere in your head, the what ifs. And as a woo woo person, I've always been interested in death since I was a little girl. So today I wanted to share the story of Brittany Lafferty. And if you just look her up and Google her, there is lots of articles written about her near-death experience. But I wanted to share excerpts of the article on the Mirror. And I don't usually read the Mirror, but it just happened to come up in my feed somewhere. And this particular article was written by Neil Shaw, who is the assistant editor of Money and Lifestyle. I want to give credit where credit's due, so I'm just going to do some of the highlights because I find everybody's story, everybody has a story, and everybody's story is interesting when it comes with, flirting with death, illness, health. She did have a health condition, which, I find more stories on NDE about people who go suddenly, drownings or, it's a little more rare when it's someone who has cancer or devastating illnesses that are terminal, perhaps, because maybe their bodies just aren't strong enough to bounce back. And you find a lot of the near-death experience stories with youth. But there's an exception to every rule that I'm talking about. I'm just talking about what I experience a little bit more when I'm researching stories. So, so this article starts with this woman being pronounced dead for 8 minutes and then reveals what she saw. And she says death is an illusion. Brittany Lafferty's soul floated above her before she passed over into a place where time didn't exist. And I'm a big believer there's no time and space and spirit. I mean, this is linear where we are right now. This is a linear timeline. And the 33-year-old had been battling a rare, life-limiting neurological disorder and said her body had already given up. She heard a voice asking if she was ready and agreed as she entered into complete darkness. Now that kind of is scary. You hear more about going into light, and it makes you wonder, was she going into the wrong place? I don't know. But, well, apparently not as you read the story further. But yeah, I kind of would say, no, thank you. But she had a devastating illness. And at the time she said she didn't know that it was so life-threatening. But, at 33, she's got a lot of youth on her side. Her body's probably otherwise strong. And her will was strong. This girl was a strong person. And especially to come back and talk about her story. While there in the darkness, Brittany learned that death is an illusion and that our time on earth isn't the end. Death is an illusion because our soul never dies, Brittany said. Our consciousness remains alive and our very being only transforms. My thoughts instantly manifested into the afterlife. I noticed that our thoughts create the reality there. It just takes time, which is a blessing. And I've always been a big believer that if you, for instance, in this lifetime worship the sun god, then that's probably who you're going to see when you first get there, because you have thoughts and expectations. And then slowly the truth is revealed. But I agree with her that it's a blessing, because it can be a scary experience, I would imagine, and it takes a little while to acclimate to a new surrounding. That just makes sense to me. So she goes on to say, we're able to change our negativity into positivity, turning this into reality. I feel empowered and trust life's events, especially the hard ones. Looking back, everything is so crystal clear as to why I suffered with illness and other tough struggles. There's knowledge that everything does really happen for a reason. As I go with the flow and don't get angry or upset when bad things happen. Also, knowing that my thoughts and feelings are that powerful helps me live a gratitude-filled life. So, as with most of these stories, people come back and it really changes their life and their outlook. And I mean, there are some people that don't believe in near-death experiences. They just believe that your brain is dying. It takes 4 minutes to lose, the oxygen deprived brain is coming to death. But she was out for 8 minutes and still came back. And there are people, like even children, that drown in a pool that it could take, an hour. That has actually been documented. I don't know, though, if there are long-term effects of that. For a lot of people, they don't come back because they're on a ventilator and they're brain dead, but their brain is no longer being deprived of oxygen because they're on the ventilator. However, it's just kind of like too late at that point, and that's why, unfortunately, we have to sometimes make decisions on their behalf. And I know that's so hard for so many people. Well, it's probably hard for everyone. My mother was on a ventilator, and I didn't have to make that decision. She made it within 24 hours herself and just went. And I was blessed. I felt very fortunate to not have to do that. But I have a lot of clients that have had to do that. And I get a lot of questions about, was it the right thing to do? Well, I really do feel that if they weren't brain dead, they would do their best to fight to get back. But honestly, at that point, I don't think they're in there. I think they're sitting next to you, watching themselves, and probably talking to you. That's a whole nother woo-woo topic almost, but almost. It's related. So Brianna had actually been suffering from myoclonus dystonia. It's a rare neurological condition that causes sudden, brief muscle jerks and contractions. She had exhausted all medication and was unaware of how bad her condition could get and if it was possibly fatal. And if. I don't know how that happens. How do you have something and you really are unaware of it? Or why the doctors wouldn't make you aware of it. But some doctors don't like to even talk about those possibilities. After experiencing intense insomnia, where she was unable to sleep for more than a minute across 4 days, she thought her time was almost up. Brianna was pronounced dead for 8 minutes, says the out-of-body experience taught her an important lesson. She said, I suddenly separated from my physical body. I didn't see or remember my human self. I was completely still, yet fully alive, aware, more of myself than ever before. There was no pain, just a deep sense of peace and clarity. That's a very common experience for people that come back. This detachment from my physical form made me realize how temporary and fragile our human existence is. There is a presence or intelligent higher than ourselves that guides and watches over us with unconditional love. For me, that's spirit guides. Everything happens at once there, as if time doesn't exist. It doesn't. Yet there was perfect order. I experienced the beginning of everything and learned that our universe is made up of a bunch of numbers. I met with other beings that I'm not sure were human, but felt very familiar. It changed the course of my life. What I feared no longer had power over me, and what I used to chase didn't seem important anymore. I came back with a sense of a mission and deep reverence for both life and death. Brianna said that it felt like she'd been gone for months when returning back into her body. She stayed in the hospital for a few days, trying to work out what happened. Over the time, she had to readjust, not just physically, but spiritually too. Now she's learned not to fear death and is grateful for the experience. She added, I had to relearn how to walk and talk. I've also had lasting effects and damage to my pituitary gland, which I got experimental surgery for on my brain to treat it. And it has been successful so far. Well, Brianna, I hope you have a long life ahead and I hope it's healthy. And I'm sure you still have this neurological condition. I do hope that they're able to help you for. I'm a little fearful of having another near-death experience only because the recovery is tough. I'm not sure I can avoid it if it's meant to happen again, though. Because of this, I have a heart of gratitude instead of anger. That's beautiful. And I wonder why some people are chosen for this. I feel like it's chosen because there are like spokespeople and they come back and tell everybody else. And it's very exciting because we all want to know. We all want to know what's there. And the more we investigate it, perhaps the more we're comfortable with it. So there's a time in everyone's life when they fear it, just thinking about it. But then the more we learn and the more we mature, the more faith we have. And we have extra faith in stories like this when there are so many people coming back with the same stories. Yes, I believe that there is a factor in the brain dying, and maybe that creates some hallucinations. But I would think that everyone would have a different hallucination. Why would it be all the same? So I don't subscribe to that level of thinking. And maybe wishful thinking on my part, but it just doesn't make sense. And when something doesn't make sense, your gut tells you it's not true. So go with that gut. And then she says that, and I'm able to help others going through chronic illness, dying, and spiritual awakenings using my own experience. I believe I survived because I have purpose here on earth. You absolutely do have purpose here, and I'm really glad that you're going to use that purpose because a lot of people, just don't really see the value or don't want to sacrifice the time they have to help other people So I'm really glad that you can touch other people's hearts and their fears and give them peace. And you do that just through the articles that you've allowed to be written about you. And then she closes with, there have been many close calls where I should have died and didn't. I'm aware that we choose hard, difficult, and painful moments in our human experiences because our soul wants to know what isn't available in the spiritual realm. It's to learn and grow, but sometimes it's because the sense of something new excites us. I'm glad you have purpose. It's good. I hate to see life lessons of any kind wasted. Would we call it a life lesson? No, I would call it a wake-up call. At 33, there's still a lot of people that don't find their purpose, and I feel like it was given to you, and it will make such a difference to this world. So please do take care of yourself. So what I'd like to hear from you about is your thoughts about NDE. Maybe share your favorite story if you follow people who have experienced it. And even if you don't believe that it's happened and you just believe that's the brain dying and they were just saved at the last minute, I mean, 8 minutes is sort of beyond. My personal take is that it happens, that it's important to document, and I don't know if she'll make some kind of a public career out of this or become a death doula. I don't really know what her actual plan is, but I might look her up a little bit down the road and see what she's up to. This article was written on May 20. Oh, it was updated on May 29th of this year, so that was 2 days ago. But originally was May 23rd, 2025. So her story came out just a week ago. Glad I'm on top of it. I didn't give you something from like 1978, but stories go back way before then. And like she said, it could happen again. She doesn't know. That's why I'd like to see her get help with this condition. I don't know anything about it. What did they say it was called? Myoclonus dystonia. And it's a rare condition. But I believe in miracles, don't I? All right, so give me your thoughts and your comments. And thanks for being here. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot going on with me except that I think I'm suffering from bursitis. So I have yet another doctor to see, another ortho person that I'll see next week and get the scooty. But like, I'm ready for a sling and it really hurts. And I'm not needing something else. I really take it back. Anyway, I'll give you updates when I have them. But I hope you are having or had a great weekend and you're blessed. Remember that I'm blessed. Love you all. Bye.